Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
My name is Don Massey. I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is August 8, 1994, and my home group is the Responsibility Group. We meet in Metairie, Louisiana at John Calvin Church on Friday nights. So if you're ever around, please feel free to drop in our home group. It's a little wacky. You know, we don't do things right, but I love it, and I think you'll love it too, and you'll definitely be welcome. I get really, really nervous doing this. I've done it before, but it's just like my stomach gets all queasy, and I call my wife. If she isn't with me, I call her and talk with her before I have to speak. And I'm really a lot better. If you're a guy I'm fixing a sponsor and you're at my house and we're talking, I'm way better at telling my story. But we usually go through the same sort of little ritual. And one of the things is after I finish speaking, I'll call her. And we got a real low watermark to see how I did. It used to be, how'd you do? And I did terrible. I know she's going to ask me when I get done, did anybody start drinking while you were speaking? If you think you're going to drink while I'm talking, please raise your hand. I promise. We can go. If you can wait, we're going to have some coffee afterwards. If you want to drink after, no problem. If you really think you're going to start drinking and you can't wait to coffee, just yell out at me and we can talk, okay? I just want to be able to report back to my wife that that did not happen yet. The other thing is, I told her, I said, I really want to say something funny. And she, she got, the problem is, out of the whole world, there are two people who think I'm funny. I've got a 3-year-old daughter who thinks I'm funny, and I personally think I'm hilarious, but that's it. So I said, what are you going to say? And I told her a couple things, no. But we did come up with one thing. I'm going to tell, because it fits. It fits Alcoholics Anonymous. This is a true story that happened right over in Tallulah, Louisiana, and it involves fear. It involves reality, and it involves a solution. And it involves my father-in-law, who was like my daddy, and my brother-in-law, who is just a fine man. He grew up in Providence, Louisiana, and this is a hunting story. It was early one morning. They were going out to hunting stands on my father-in-law's lease, and they're about probably 1.5 miles apart. It's dark. It's a little rainy. Can't see anything. It's all muddy because it's Tallulah. So my father-in-law drops Michael off at a hunting stand, at a deer stand. He climbs on up in the dark. He's got his soft drinks and his rifle. And my father-in-law drives off about 1.5 miles away and goes to his stand. Well, after daybreak, my father-in-law's cell phone rings, and it's Michael on the phone going, Malcolm, there's a bear at the bottom of my stand. There's a bear. Come get me. And so Michael finishes screaming. Malcolm says, Michael, you done? Come get me, there's a bear. Okay, you done? Come get me, there's a bear. He goes, Michael, does the bear have a gun? That bear, for me, is alcoholism. I get terrified when I see that bear. I see that bear in me every time I look in the mirror, if you want to know the truth. But I've got some really good tools. Y'all have given me a hunting rifle to deal with that bear in our legacies in Alcoholics Anonymous, in our steps and our traditions, and in our service legacy. And these things have been magical for me. They really have. And I didn't do anything special to deserve them. I didn't do anything special to stay sober for a few 24 hours. I have been given repeated gifts of grace, and I've only done a little. It's like you give a little, you get a lot. The best part of my recovery story is the recovery part. But I'm going to tell you what it was like for me, what happened, and what it's like now. I'll do the best I can. You know, I always hear speakers, and I love Holly. She is one of the people I respect the most. She started off, well, I'm going to start off when I was born. You know, I heard another speaker one time start off, well, I'm going to start off in vitro when my mama was pregnant with me. So I'm going to start off 4 years and 4 months and a few days before I was born. Like, ooh, that's special. Where I'm going to start off, I want you to, this is New York City where I'm starting off in 1955. And it was a room full of people I never met. It was at a general service conference. And I know, having been at a few of them, the people in that conference some of them had headaches, some of them were elated and filled with joy. Some of them were just pissed to be there. Some of them were agitated and aggravated. And a man who wasn't even an alcoholic got up and had something to say about what they were doing there. And I'm not going to quote him right, his name was Bernard Smith. He was the chair of our General Service Board. He was a fancy-smancy Wall Street lawyer. And Bernard Smith made the statement that what we're doing here doesn't have anything really to do with the people in this room or the people in your home group. What it has to do with is the alcoholic who stumbles in darkness down the street. It's about the baby who's going to be born tomorrow, who will be born as an alcoholic. I hadn't been born then, and I don't think many of us had been born then, and I doubt any of us got to Alcoholics Anonymous before 1955. That was a room full of invisible people, invisible to me because I never met them, I can't tell you their names. But I know they loved Alcoholics Anonymous enough and they loved us enough to do some things that were inconvenient, to see to it that was here. Now, I was born in 1959, neither my mama nor my daddy were alcoholics. And I can promise you, knowing my mom and daddy, they did not say a little prayer, oh God, please give me one of them alcoholic babies. They turn out really nice. I would love one of those. They didn't know anything about alcoholism, and I don't know why I turned out alcoholic. I just got wired that way. My mama, and I have a younger brother who's a psychiatrist, go figure. Alcoholism in families causes psychiatry, you know? They're honest-to-goodness geniuses, and when I say that, I'm telling you they have taken IQ tests. They're members of an organization called Mensa. They're geniuses. And what I found about really smart people, they don't even have to tell you they're smart. They just do things that are really smart and smarter than things that I do. So I always knew they were smart. My daddy, on the other hand, was a super kind man, a gentleman. He was a World War II vet. He was disabled from World War II. And he was a man that showed me great love and a way to live life respecting other people, a remarkable man. But my daddy every once in a while would tell me he was smarter than me. That made me question how smart he was. My mother and brother never told me how smart they were, and every once in a while my dad, no, I'm smarter than you. I'm like, not so sure about that. He was like me. I think if he ever drank, he may have been an alcoholic for all I know. He seemed to have some of the traits. But the bottom line is there was no alcoholism in my family. And I don't remember growing up. I grew up in New Orleans, but I don't remember growing up with alcohol in the baby bottle. The first time I ever got drunk, I was 13 years old. I got drunk on the Mississippi River Batcher, just kind of on the kind of other side of the levee from the river with the guy who was my best friend at the time. You got to love it if you're from the South. This man's name was Stonewall. So me and a guy named Stoney got stoned for my first time. And I got sick that night, and I threw up all over Stoney's house. I threw up on Stoney's sister. And I do remember that when I woke up the next day, I didn't think about being sick, but I thought about how cool that felt, because I really felt something I'd felt for the first time in my life. I felt better, if that makes any. I wouldn't have had the right words to say to you exactly how I felt, but I felt connected to something that I didn't feel before. And I'm not going to go into a lot of really bogged down details. But by the time I was 13 years old, I was at a boarding school in Covington, Louisiana. I would love to tell you I got to go to this boarding school because I was super smart and showed a lot of promise. I got to go to this boarding school because a juvenile judge thought it would be a good idea for my parents to scrape together the money to send me there, or I get to go to a reform school. Which reminds me, the people who decorated this, it is incredible. I don't mean to divert from this, but it reminded me of something. The decorations are first class. I felt at home. And as I was looking at and I particularly like the little placemat things, the handprints, but when I started looking at it, you know what the first thing I thought was? Damn, that reminds me of the first time I got fingerprinted. If you look at the little handprints on the table, I was thinking, and I've been fingerprinted more than one time. I was looking at it, it's been a long time since I've been fingerprinted. I did get fingerprinted once in recovery, and I'll tell you about that, but it was for a good, very positive purpose. But I'd been in this boarding school, and let me tell you, I was a problem person. You know, I mean, you could say I was ADD or this or that, but let me tell you, I think the way I was wired is I have an ego problem, I have a fear problem, I've got an inferiority problem, and a superiority problem. And all that stuff is just jumbled and shoved together in the same person and the same brain, and it doesn't mix well. It really doesn't. And alcohol mixed well with me for a short time. I can't tell you I ever drank normally, but I can tell you it made me feel better for a while. I didn't have plans to go to college, but I went. My family wanted me to go. My plans that I was gonna go be a welder, that fell apart. Just job I wanted was in Alaska. They finished the Alaskan pipeline, so I didn't know what the hell else to do. Went to college. I remember my first week at college. I went to a school called University of New Orleans. I went there because it was cheap. It cost $200 a semester at the time. I didn't plan on staying in college long, but I went through the lunch line. It was probably the second day I was at school. I ate lunch there, and it was the darndest thing. Going through this lunch line, one, in college they had girls, and I was at an all-boy boarding school, so this was a good thing. The second thing is they had, they had little trays with ice in them full of beer. You could get beer at lunch. So my first day at lunch at University of New Orleans, I got 6 Dixie beers. That's all I got. I went and sat down, I drank my 6 beers. Something's not right about that, but I was attracted to some other people that were drinking beer, so I hung out with them. It turned out to be fraternity people, but I liked them. They were fun to hang out with, and they'd always have a bunch of beers for lunch, so it worked out well for me. I will tell you, I didn't feel like I fit in at college, but I didn't have a plan after college of what to do with my life. And a couple of times, including in college, I had an option. Have y'all ever encountered any lawyers just in your life? Have you ever had to deal with lawyers? I don't have any lawyers in my family, but I learned to really respect and like lawyers as public servants. What lawyers would do for me, I would get arrested for doing something. My daddy or mama would get me a lawyer. The lawyer would take me to court. Well, first thing, the lawyer would get me out of jail. I get to go home. And then the next thing is the lawyer would go to court, and he would look great. And he would say things like, "Not guilty. I'll have a pretrial conference, Your Honor." And then he'd go in the back with the judge and the district attorney and come out and say, "You are free to go." And my daddy would be freed up of a couple $1,000s. I'm thinking, damn, that is a public servant. Look how good, look what this man does. So, that was really the extent of lawyers I'd ever encountered in my whole life, and I wanted to be one. So I went to law school. The dumbest and the most inferior I ever felt in my life was my first week of law school. Everybody was rich. I was not. Connected. They all seemed to know one another. And I just didn't feel like I fit in. Now, let me paint a little picture for you. At the time, I was a weightlifter, and I rode a Harley-Davidson chopper. So the way I'd show up in law school, I had my little book bag. I had my raked front-end Harley-Davidson chopper. This is 1981, so this is not a cool thing to have back in those days. I thought it was cool. I'd have a muscle shirt, and it's 1981, so it was tight and very short shorts, right? And flip-flops or tennis shoes. I don't know why people in law school didn't feel like I fit in, But I was so paranoid that I was going to get thrown out because I didn't belong there. I studied really, really hard. And I did real well in law school. And I did make some friends. And I ended up getting a really good job at a firm. I was the 40th lawyer at that firm. It was one of the miracles of recovery. I'm still at that same law firm. I've been there 29 years, and I'm the 400th lawyer there. Well, we have 400 lawyers now. Look, I should have been fired a million times, and it's not because I'm anything special. It's because in a path where I should have died, been fired, gone to jail, Alcoholics Anonymous came into my life. You intervened, and I've had a bunch of miracles occur in my life. That's the truth. I would love to tell you that when I got into this firm, everything just snapped into normalcy. I would have loved it to. I went through a series of relationships. I was talking to my oldest daughter about this. I think I have bought a dozen engagement rings in my life, I swear. And it's like you ought to get the 13th one free or something, you know. And my oldest daughter, she's just such a lady and wonderful, wonderful person. She just had a broken engagement and was talking to me about what to do with the wedding ring. I'm like, well, hell, I never gave one back. You shouldn't either, you know. But the bottom line is, I had a series of relationships that were crazy because I was crazy and I was in them. The way I did my business professionally was a disaster. I was successful because I was confrontational to absolutely everybody that I encountered. But let me tell you, it was not any kind of way to live, and I was living a life that no matter, and I had professional successes, but each time I had any kind of professional success, I felt emptier and emptier. I'd win a big case, feel empty, get appointed to something, get some sort of professional recognition. I felt worse and worse. And somebody had put it in an AA meeting. It was like the little pilot light that was my soul was just kind of flickering, just getting ready to extinguish. And I tried all kinds of things. The drinking problem that I have became very apparent to me because I drank every time I got a chance, but I didn't drink every day. But I got closer and closer to drinking every day. I met a lady I met her on a Monday. We stayed out drinking till Wednesday night. This is a work week. She turned out to be my oldest daughter's mother. We dated for a little while. I guess you could say we fell in love or fell in intoxication or something. Her daddy was a Court of Appeal judge too. So we ultimately had a baby, but there was a wedding that intervened, thankfully, but that was an absolute requirement if I ever wanted to practice law in New Orleans, okay? You're getting married to my daughter. So we had a wedding, and the marriage didn't work out well, but for one thing. I have a great daughter. Her name is Alex. She's 24 years old, and thanks to you, I have an incredible relationship and an incredible daughter, and I'll talk about her in just a little bit, and just that relationship. But in the course of going through a divorce, alcohol was the only solution that I'd ever known, and it stopped working for me. And at one point in 1993, this isn't the first time it happened, but it was kind of an extreme case. I woke up in a hotel room. I woke up somewhere that wasn't my house, and I had thrown up all over myself and peed all over the bed, and I didn't know where I was. And I did know what to do. If you got a strategy for that, if this has happened in your past and you got a strategy, ooh, I know what to do now, you might consider whether you have an alcohol problem. Well, I knew what to do. I pick up the telephone, I call zero. I ask, can you give me the address so I can call me a cab? And the response was, we'll get you a cab. When do you want it to come and where are you going? Oh no, I have my own special cab company, I just take the address. Well, it turns out the address was in Houston. When I got to the point, I'm like, how did I get to Houston? What am I doing here? And I started fishing through my wallet. I had a receipt for what's the most barbecue anybody's eaten? $100? I was at the Texas International Barbecue Restaurant, and I had an American Express receipt for $1,000 of barbecue. Like, how does that happen? Apparently, it's a strip club, is what it is. And I don't have any recollection of it. I mean, I didn't have any barbecue sauce on me, my clothes, nothing. So I'm figuring this is not good. And I swore right there to God, in front of God, and to I am never drinking again, ever, ever, ever. I got it. And I did not drink again, ever, 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 until December. That was July of '93. I had to drink again in December. Why? Come on, it's football season, plus more importantly, my firm had a holiday party. So I had a glass of wine to celebrate how well I'd done. I was the single most miserable person I've ever encountered when I wasn't drinking that short period in 1993. I was impossible for me to live with. I was miserable. I took a sip of wine. I took a glass of wine there. By the end of the week, I had resorted back to an old habit. One of the reasons I like the law firm I joined, we have an attorney's lounge in the office, I swear to you. We have an attorney's lounge where we can go and relax and congregate, and we have like really high-class liquor there, right? So every day for years, I'd steal a bottle of high-class liquor, shove it in my briefcase. I have stolen more. I have not stolen more from that firm in the last 19 years. You can't imagine. I mean, add that up. I figured they ought to be grateful about something, right? You know? But in all seriousness, I was back to like taking all of the food out of my freezer at my house and filling it with vodka. I'm going to tell you why vodka, because my brain worked really, I've got a lot of higher education, okay? And I figured the reasons I'm having consequences with alcohol is because I'm drinking alcohol that's impure. I'm drinking scotch. I'm drinking Jack Daniels or Wild Turkey. If you can't see through it, there's a problem with it. That's why I'm having consequences. I'm getting sick. My body is not processing this liquor right. So if I go to the clear liquors, it's going to, and beer, same thing. I had trouble with beer. So I started off on vodka, and I figured it will process it even better if I keep it in the freezer and it's really, really cold when I drink it. I don't know why I thought that. And then I had a little problem for the last few months of my drinking. I had trouble with tequila. For whatever reason, I'd wake up outside when I drank tequila, it seemed like. In reality, I woke up outside a lot of times. But I just remembered it with tequila, and I asked my mother, who is a scientist, she's a chemist, Mom, why is it that with tequila, and my mother, God bless her, she was enabling me a little bit, I suspect. It's like, well, tequila, Don, has an extra carbon bond or something. She explained the molecular structure of tequila. I'm like, well, that's it. That was it. Stick with vodka. I don't know if you've ever changed alcohols or done that type of thing. The alcohol I drank all did the same thing to me when I look back at it. What it did is when I put it in my body, I craved more, and I couldn't stop drinking. I never understood that. I always thought it was like that number 8, number 10, number 12 drink. I never really got that it was the first one kicked off this phenomenon of craving. I really never got it until I got to AA, and frankly, I didn't get it right away in AA. Anyway, there's a fella in my life in my business. His name was Tom S. Tom has since passed. Tom and I started drinking one day together in 1989 at our business, in our attorney lounge. Tom went off to go finish drinking in the French Quarter, and I went home. Tom came back to work the next morning in the same suit. One of the sleeves was ripped off. His face was smashed in. He had a stack of American Express receipts with him. And the firm just scooped him up and brought him to a treatment center. So I stayed away from Tom because he got hooked up. I did. He got hooked up with a cult called Alcoholics Anonymous, AA. Like, ooh, I don't know what that is. It's a cult. I really thought it was a cult. I swear to you, I thought it was a cult. So I stayed away from Tom, but I got stuck working with Tom in Greensboro, North Carolina in 1994. And it was some of the most miserable times of my life because I would go to Greensboro and I would have to hang out with Tom, and Tom was happy, joyous, and free and had found recovery, and we would go eat dinner at nights, and Tom wasn't drinking, and there was no way I couldn't not have a drink. I was going to drink for dinner, and I did every night. And I got to asking Tom some questions about it. I should mention, I was hooked up with the lady I'd held hostage as a fiance, and she used to talk to me about AA, but the usual discussion was she was kicking me, and she was reading a pamphlet. I don't know why we got rid of this pamphlet either. Have you ever heard of the pamphlet 44 Questions? I used to get the questions that would kind of fade in with a woman kicking me, reading, have you ever? Like, woman, stop, you're the alcoholic, not me, leave me alone. Now, I'm passed out on my front porch, she's kicking me, and I'm telling her she's the alcoholic with a problem, But I was aware of AA, but I really thought it was a cult. I thought it was an Amway scam. I thought it was a deal that people would encourage me to go to AA because they had a financial stake in it, that if I went, Don is attributable to Jane, and Jane will receive money for everybody Don brings in, like Amway, right? If you're new to AA, if you walk out of here knowing anything, it really doesn't work that way. It really doesn't. It's not a cult or a scam, but I really thought that it was. My last drink happened sometime shortly before August 8, 1994 in Greensboro. I went out with Tom one night. I kept out. I don't know what happened, but I do remember I woke up under an overpass. I'd been beat up. I was missing some of my stuff, and it was enough for me. But my solution was I wanted to blow my head off. I have reached out to the God that I understood at that time. It was a God at a Catholic church. I'm not Catholic, I should mention this, but I was going to Catholic church all the time because I went to Catholic boarding school. I figured, why not? They got God there. So I was going, and I would go to take communion because I figured that would help me. I really believed in my heart of hearts this will help me, and I won't have these concepts. I didn't want to stop drinking. I just didn't want to have problems with alcohol. And I was at the point that I was literally going to church twice a day. And I stopped going twice a day. I go once a day, but I would go to communion twice during each Mass. And the way you do, if you're wondering if it works, I'm going to tell you, you can do it. You sit up front, you get the communion wafer, and you go stand in the back, wait for the line to fill up, and you go stand in line again. Just try to get the different person each time, and if you don't, the priest will look at you. There's a special look a priest gives you when you're in the line for your second lap for communion. It did not work for me, and it wasn't a problem with the church or the communion. The problem is the way I'm wired, I'm an alcoholic, and that wasn't a solution to work for me to keep drinking. I couldn't moderate. I'm not a person that can do that. I got back to New Orleans before August 8, 1994, and I called the church I was going to. And a priest answered. He was a Vietnamese priest. I couldn't understand him. I was crying. And he pretty much told me, call me back when you're not drunk, and hung up on me. I got so furious, I started chunking stuff around my house. I busted my house all up, and I picked up my gun. And I had a habit of doing this. I pick up my gun. It was a .357, still have it. Put it to my head, and I'm going to blow my head off. And it's just me. But I'm going to blow my head off, and I was at the point where I'd resolved to do it. Pull the trigger back, put the gun down, pick it up, pull the trigger back, put the gun down, uncock it. And it just went on and on. It seemed like forever. It was probably 3 minutes. But it was like it was over for me. I didn't want to live anymore. And in a moment of clarity, I called Alcoholics Anonymous. That's where we start seeing some more of these invisible people. Because somebody answered a telephone for a phone number for Alcoholics Anonymous in New Orleans. And somebody who I can't tell you who it was answered the phone, listened to me. They were kind to me and said, I'm going to get a guy to call you right back. Is your number? They told me, they got my phone number, and a guy named John L. called me back, and he brought me to my first AA meeting at the Responsibility Group. Let me tell you, a lot of people went into that saved my life, because I'd be dead right now. I know I would be dead. Somebody, some group of people cared enough to get a telephone number set up and pay for it. Somebody contributed money to pay for that phone. Somebody wrote up a 12-step list of men who would take calls from crazy people with guns to their head and take them to AA meetings. Somebody set up a central office. Somebody cared, and those invisible people saved my life. They did. And they'd been doing it to keep AA here at least since 1955 when Bernard Smith was talking with those folks. I would love to tell you I got struck sober and everything was white light and happiness. The only thing I remember about my first AA meeting was a whole bunch of people told me, you're the most important person here, the newcomer. And it's like, I remember I went home, talked to the lady who was my fiance at the time. Well, how did it go? I said, yeah, they're really pretty nice and smart people. I'm going to go back. Nobody has ever again told me I'm the most important anywhere, in AA or elsewhere. I've never been the most important anything else. But I remember that. I can tell you some things about my recovery. John L. became my first sponsor. I want to tell you about the lady. Well, I don't have a sponsor. Oh, my God, we got a trustee who doesn't have a sponsor. I hadn't had a sponsor for almost 19 years. Oh, my God, that's awful, right? I've got a spiritual advisor, and I'm going to tell you how I got her. I was about a year sober, and John L. was my sponsor, and Tom S. kind of was my sponsor. But what I remembered the most about Trudy. It's a lady, Trudy Truelove. It's a nickname in AA. Trudy went to the I-10 West group in Metairie, and I would go there sometimes on Monday nights, and I thought she was drop-dead gorgeous. James M. knows her. She was beautiful. And I would look at Trudy, but she had this kind of big husband who was an Al-Anon, and he was sort of mean looking. So I always kind of steered away from her, but I'd love to have gotten to know her a little better, right? So I went to the I-10 West group. I'm about a year sober, and I'd met up with this girl, Lisa. Lisa had, I think, 15 minutes of sobriety. And maybe 20, I don't know. But I was helping Lisa out with her steps and helping her get it right. So I go, and Lisa was she's a cutie pie. So I went to the I-10 West group this one time, and Trudy called me before the meeting. Hey, Don, can you come see me? I'm like, wow, she knows who I am. This is cool. So she pulls me like to the side in the back of this little church area, says, Don, are you with Lisa? Of course, my response was, I am, but it does not have to be forever, you know? And her response to me was, Don, Lisa belongs to me. In fact, every single woman in this group belongs to me. In fact, every woman in Alcoholics Anonymous belongs to me. I'm going to clean up some of the language, but if you ever touch one of my women, I'm going to cut your head off, I'm going to stitch it back on, I'm going to bring you in front of this group, and I'm going to cut it off again to make an example of you. Do you understand me? And ever since then, Trudy has been my spiritual advisor. I have taken multiple laps through our legacies with Trudy. Trudy and her husband are two of the people that have been giants in my life. Trudy's sobriety date is August 1, 1997. She has shown me more about being a man, about being a father, about being a husband, about being a friend, about being a sponsor, about being a sponsee, about having a relationship with the God as I understand God. She has taught me how to live life on life's terms. Trudy is in hospice right now. She's going to die within a matter of minutes or days. And I will miss her, but I want to honor her and tell you what a remarkable person she is. One of the best years of my life was right after Katrina. Trudy and Richard stayed with Amanda, my wife, and I, and it was a great year for me. And I told her 2 days ago, it's like, I want you to know, for me, you're never going anywhere. You're always, you have made such a difference in so many people's lives. That relationship was a key relationship for me. I learned how to be in relationships through our steps. One thing I learned right away in taking my first lap around the steps with Trudy, women that turn up on all those little inventory lists we do, we refer to those people as ladies. There are a lot of words I was using. We never use those words. And when a man does a fifth step with me, we call them ladies. You know why? Because they're somebody's mother, sister, daughter, or wife, or all of the above. And that's what they are. And it's made me extremely protective of ladies in Alcoholics Anonymous, or more to the point of young people coming into AA. We can make stupid decisions for ourselves, but I'll be damned if I'm going to let anybody prey on a newcomer. I'm not a big guy, but bet on me if there's a dispute. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't come into this deal loving the notion of AA, but I wanted to feel better, and this helped me feel better. It did. And I haven't had it. My 24-year-old was asking me the other day, she was with me for Father's Day weekend. We have a farm near Kentwood, and we were rebuilding a playhouse for my youngest daughter. I'll get into that in a minute. And she asked me, we're going to eat at a little Mexican restaurant. She said, Daddy, does it bother you to go someplace where people are drinking? Does it make you want to drink? And I said, baby, no, it doesn't. If I have a reason to be there, if I'm going there because I'm in a slippery place and I'm feeling bad and I'm looking at people drinking, I can easily get drunk. I'm very, very eligible to do that. But it does not. I haven't had a craving to drink for a little over 18 years. It's amazing. And it's not because of me. The way I'm wired is I go get drunk. That's who I am. I have learned solutions in this fellowship. I've had a spiritual awakening. I've had multiple spiritual awakenings. And it's not because I'm special. It's because the stuff we suggest works. I want to tell you a little something about service in AA. You know, my sponsor had told me, not Trudy, John L., don't get involved in that. It's politics. And I'm going to tell you, I got tricked into it. In my home group, responsibility, I accidentally went to business meeting because I thought it was a party planning thing. We were going to be planning something for this Oktoberfest thing. That's the truth. I went to early to this thing, and this guy, Rick, at the meeting, he was a professor from South Dakota, but he was teaching at one of the universities in New Orleans. Said, Don could be the GSO. I'm like, what is that? And he tells me it's called the group service representative. It's actually a general service representative. He says, Don, it'd be good for you. It'd be easy. You go, I'm like, well, what do you got to do? One time a year, you go to Alexandria, Louisiana, and maybe once every 6 months, you're going to have to go to something over at St. John's Church. It's called the district meeting. This is no big deal. Just come back and tell us what happened. Okay. So I guess I could do it. After the meeting, Rick says, Don, by the way, they got a meeting at St. John's Church tomorrow on Saturday. Like, okay. It's early in the 6 months. I'll go. I get over there. I find out, in fact, you got to go to Alexandria. Excuse me. You got to go to Alexandria 4 times a year. Alexandria, Louisiana. That's a horrible place. How could I possibly go there? There's nothing going on. I hated the idea. But what got worse is there's a district meeting every month on a Saturday in the middle of the day. It's a Saturday killer. And on top of that, they got committee meetings. I'm on the phone with my sponsor, and at the time it's like a bigger flip phone thing, screaming. You're not going to believe what Rick did. I mean, y'all ever seen Red? I'm seeing Red in sobriety. And the whole week I kept getting madder and madder. And my plan is, I'm going to go kick Rick's butt. The plan for Friday, it's like he's not working an honest program. And I'm going to help him make an amend to me by kicking his butt. So my plan, and I'm furious. So I'm going to pull him out the meeting and whoop his butt in front of Doctor's Hospital. And I go to the meeting, I'm ready to go. I'm in my muscle shirt, my shorts. I'm ready for fighting. And Rick wasn't there. And this is the God's truth. Rick has never been back. He moved back to one of the Dakotas. I've never seen him again. And I swear to you, if y'all know the dude, give him a big old bear hug and kiss for me, because I'm going to tell you, it changed my life. I went to my first area assembly, and I hated it. There were people screaming into microphones. It's like a bunch of egomaniacs. And I found a guy that I got along with. We sat on the back row, and we started to heckle people. And some of my friends from Louisiana know who the people I was heckling were. Oh, man, sit down, cursing at them. I was a horrible assembly attendee, horrible. And I just hated it worse and worse each time I went. But I really started liking riding to Alexandria with a group of guys I was going with. I really started liking these people. We just had a blast going there and back. And we would share a room. And at some point, I got to the point where I was a little engaged to what people were saying. And they started talking about these traditions and concepts. I'm a lawyer, right? So I'm like, where are these concepts? Somebody told me in the service manual. Flip to the service manual. What concept they talking about? And I'd start flipping through it, and I was like, these became a lot of fun, because I'd get up right after somebody said something about a concept. If the person irritated me and I didn't like their personality, well, I'd get up and chunk a concept back at them like a hand grenade. And I mean, I'm a lawyer. I'm pretty good at that stuff, right? And people kept telling me stuff like, keep coming back, And I was like, yeah, they really like me. So at some point before I rotated out as a GSR, it started hitting me. All these people here just love Alcoholics Anonymous, and they love what it's done for them. They're just passionate. They just love what this fellowship does, and they're concerned about it being here in the future. And after that, I started when I identified with you just love AA like I love AA, that's all. And I started having this remarkable love for Alcoholics Anonymous. And things started happening in my life. I would love to tell you that I got great at having relationships. I was a horrible person to be in a relationship with, any kind of relationship, until I started taking some of those laps around our steps with Trudy, honestly. And I started getting rigorously honest. I dated just about everybody in New Orleans that didn't get a restraining order against me to date them, you know? And I wasn't a very good guy to date, really. I thought I was a great guy to date, but, in retrospect, looking back at it, I wouldn't want my daughters hanging out with somebody like me, Not at that time. But I started doing some things to try to get honest and try to learn how to be in relationships. Isn't that what our steps are about, is being in relationships, really? Isn't that what we do? We learn how to relate. You want to know the bad stuff about me or the good stuff? Look at how I relate with people. That's the little petri dish of Don. Everything good and bad about me turns up in those relationships. Don't believe what I say. Watch my relationships. I want to tell you about my wife, Amanda, and I want to talk about some remarkable things in AA. My wife, Amanda. I met Amanda in 2002, and she was getting her hair done. No, she was tanning at this place where a friend of mine owns this place. He's got like a tanning salon, does people's hair. He's a haircutter guy with a tanning salon and nails. And I went in after I got finished jogging, and you got the picture. I got the muscle shirt on. I got the short shorts on. I did get out of the short shorts eventually, but I had them on at the time. I mean, out of the short shorts, meaning I wear like more suitable clothing for somebody my age. You know what I'm saying. The point is, I walk in, Dan is not in the place, but this person was there, and it hit me. And I never believed in love at first sight until that moment, because I looked at this person, and it's like, this is a perfect person for me. And I was speechless. I couldn't speak. And I just kind of sat there looking like a slack-jawed idiot, And she started talking to me. And it was just this remarkable thing. Now, if you were to ask Amanda, she would say, somebody came in looking like a criminal, and I thought I was going to get raped and murdered. So I started talking to Dan came from the back. But we eventually ended up going out, and we have been in one very long conversation ever since that time. We got married in 2003. She is truly my best friend. And let me tell you, since we got married, Amanda and I tried to have a baby. And we did. Think of some stuff you do to have a baby beyond what's easiest to consider. We did some expensive and embarrassing stuff to have a baby, and nothing happened. And my wife would be an incredible mother. And every time we would do something expensive and embarrassing to have a baby, and the pregnancy test would come back negative, it was like killing my wife. And it was breaking my heart. And I just didn't want to live. I just wanted my wife to feel alive and the person I know she is. It was killing her. And I got selected for this trustee thing. I'm going to go into that in a minute. And it's not because I'm some special sort of guy or anything. It was a real surprise. We had another trustee at large from Louisiana, and Amanda was very upset that I got selected. It takes a lot of time. It's maybe 40 weekends a year that you're spending away from home. And all she heard is, we're not going to ever get a baby now, are we? Because you're going to be doing that, and it's going to affect your business, isn't it? And she was angry. Out the blue one day, I bump into a lady that's a divorce lawyer, and I'm with one of my sponsees who's a divorce lawyer, and I saw this lady. I'm like, hey, wait, Edith, I'm with Jonathan because we're buddies. I said, I love my wife, you know that. And I'm like, because I'm thinking she's thinking I'm getting divorced. No. I said, in fact, if you ever meet anybody that's like, that's interested in giving a baby up for adoption, yell at me. Within a week, I get a phone call. I'm in Belle Chase, Louisiana, mouth of the river. She's on the phone. Don, can you get to my office in less than an hour? I got a birth mother sitting in front of me. She's talked with 10 couples, and none of them have done anything for her. And I'm just thinking maybe out the blue, maybe you and Amanda. So I go get my wife, who's actually getting her hair done at this time. Ooh, coincidence, huh? So she's getting her hair done. I go get her from Metairie and bring her back to a building right across the street from the Superdome, which is downtown New Orleans. I knew this was good karma because I made it in an hour because I went real fast. But there was a parking meter open with time on the meter. Woo, you never get that in New Orleans, They got time on a meter in front of the place. So we go up there, And I'd love to tell you I did this great interview with this young lady. I was a complete fool. I was nervous. I was sweating. But she asked me one question. Amanda was perfect. Just a lady, good catch, huh? Exactly the type of person that you would want to be a mother of a child you wanted to be adopted. And let me tell you, the one question she asked, you gave me the answer for. She asked me, what defines you? Pretty wise question for a 21-year-old kid from another state who's terrified and having the worst thing go on in her life that ever happened, making the hardest decision she's ever had to make. And my answer was your answer. I told her what defines me is my relationships. And I went on to explain that there's some things about me that I just am powerless over, and that I've had some real unmanageability in my life, and that I have a higher power. And I talked a little about religion. I don't talk about religion in my story because Alcoholics Anonymous doesn't care what your religion is, or even if you have one. But I did talk with her about it because it was relevant to her. I told her that I had to look hard at myself and take an inventory of who I really am and be honest about it. And then I told her that I had to clean my side of the street and find my higher power and just be willing to let go of some of the stuff. And I told her about having to clean my side of the street with some amends. And I told her about how I have to continue trying to do these things and how I have to do some things in my life that get me out of me and help other people. And we were done. The lawyer showed us into her office, and I began profusely apologizing to Amanda that I'd screwed this interview up. And I felt awful because I could see her hopes were up a little bit. And this young lady came in, her name is Gabrielle, and said, I pick y'all. So, right then and there, Alcoholics Anonymous gave me the answer to the most important question I've ever been asked. It's about our relationships, isn't it? Isn't that what we're about? So, Gabrielle gave birth to a little girl. Her name is Christabella. Me and Amanda are her mama and daddy. And I'm going to tell you, to watch the pilot light flicker back on in my wife, to see what an incredible mom Amanda is, to have this little girl. I'm going to tell you, I'm 53 years old, okay? I would have never said 20 years ago, shoot, I think I'm a want a baby at 51, 50, you know? I love the noise level in the house, you know? And they're such good listeners at 3 years old. You know, if you have any 3-year-olds around, if you got a 3-year-old who's a good listener, please catch me after and tell me how that's happening. But it's been a wonderful life. I would have never guessed that would be part of my life, but it's a great part of my life. And when Amanda realized that this baby is here because of Alcoholics Anonymous, she has had nothing but encouragement for me to go about doing whatever I'm asked to do. That's why I'm here now. She'd be here. She got some other stuff going on in New Orleans right now, but she loves AA. I could go on and on with the great stuff that's going on in my life, but I want to talk about a couple of things that help me connect some of those invisible people. There are invisible people in other places in this world that have some remarkable Alcoholics Anonymous experiences. I'm going to share some of them with you. One story I want to share, and there's a friend of mine here. I had no idea I was going to see her. Raise your hand if you would, Margaret. Raise, right there, hand up. That's Margaret. Margaret and I, just one of these coincidental things back in 2004, we went to Siberia, actually the far northeast Arctic part of Russia, okay? I'm going to tell you how that happened. I was on an E-list for communication with the professional community for AA. You know how we got all these acronyms, CPC, PI? Doesn't it make you nuts? It makes me nuts. I didn't know what it meant for a long time. But I got on an E-list because I was involved with communicating with our professional community. And apparently the governor of that region of Russia became alarmed that it has the highest rate of alcohol fetal death and alcohol fetal syndrome of any place on earth. In the picture where we're talking about, you know where Alaska is? It's way up north. Go all the way up to the tippity top of Alaska, Barrow, Alaska, you know, Prudhoe Bay. Hang a hard left. Keep going over the icebergs and the Bering Straits. You're going to see some ice that's land, and there'll be a landing strip and some missile silos. That is a Nadir Chukotka, Russia. It's like in the middle of nowhere. The governor sent all of the doctors in that region into Alaska to find out how people stay sober. They bumped into AA. Through the International Red Cross, there was an invitation for AA to come over there. And it was the AA folks in Alaska were adamant that folks self-fund. And there was kind of a put out, hey, is anybody interested in going? And it ended up on this e-list. I'm like, yeah, I'll go. I'd sent it out to some people in Louisiana. Margaret said, hey, I'll go. So we went, right? And what the deal was is we brought about 8 of us, including a doctor from Anchorage who was not an AA member, and 7 AA members, me, Margaret, and some other people from Anchorage. Now, I'm going to tell you, I figured, my God, I'm like a pretty good communicator, a lawyer. I can't imagine me not being on this trip. How important am I going to be, you know? Because we're going to talk with the court system, and we're going to talk with doctors, and we're going to talk with the press in Russia. Let me tell you how important I was on this trip. We brought some Russian literature over there, and they were in a bunch of boxes. I got to carry the boxes of the literature, which is our message. Beyond that, I was the least useful guy there. People don't identify, I know this will shock you, Eskimos in Siberia do not identify with lawyers from South Louisiana. God. Ladies identify with other ladies. Mothers identify with mothers. Mothers identify with grandmothers. Eskimos who speak the Eskimo dialect identify with other Eskimos. And we had a guy named Ben O with us. I shouldn't shout out during one of those. Margaret, I got to hang out with Ben O late last year. I hadn't seen him in a long time. We had this Eskimo named Ben O with us. And it was remarkable. We went to this Eskimo village, and he was able to communicate in the Chukchi Eskimo dialect. He's from an Eskimo group in Fairbanks, Alaska. He'd never been to Russia. He'd never learned how to speak. It's just one of those, wow, how unbelievable is that? And it was a remarkable trip, but one of the more remarkable things was the last night of the trip we're having dinner at this restaurant, and there's this guy that had been hanging around, Valery, and he was involved in organizing stuff for this trip. Turns out Valery was from a village it's a ways up in terms of kilometers. It's on the Arctic Ocean. I want to say the name of the village is Muktuk. It's some Russian or Eskimo Russian term that means walrus hunters. It's a walrus. They kill walruses to eat. And this guy, it turns out, had heard we were coming. So when everything was frozen over, he walked 5 days across the frozen tundra in late April, early May, and stayed at an Eskimo village until July when we got there, because he got sober on a pamphlet that he got from International Red Cross and wanted some books to bring to his village for people with alcohol problem. And he waited until things froze over and walked back. I'm like, not computing all this. Wait a second. Why'd the dude walk? It's like, how do you think he got here? You don't have roads in Siberia. And when it thaws out, it's mush. It's like swamp. When it's frozen, you can walk across the tundra. And he walked while it was frozen. When it thawed out, he waited. We showed up a few months later. He got the books he was waiting for, hung out with us for about a week, waited till it froze over, and went back to his village. I'm like, oh my God, I don't have problems. This dude walked for 5 days with his wife across the frozen tundra to get literature and to meet us, and then went back months later when it froze over again. I kind of put that out of my mind. I remember it, and I remember it fondly. Here's the bizarre part of this. I get selected to be a trustee at large, right? I love doing this. I'm going to go on about some of the international stuff, but let me tell you, I have to go to Russia in 2012, and I'm with the Director of Publications, Valerie O., for our AA World Service. There's a lady who handles all our publications, and we have a translator who's not an alcoholic, but is an employee of our General Service Office. She's Russian. So we go over there, and what we're dealing with is some problems. They're having some growth pains and some structural problems and some infighting, be real honest, between a group in St. Petersburg, Russia, and Moscow. So we're going between St. Petersburg and Moscow, right? And we're talking with groups of people, trying to help them resolve some issues because it involves publication of our literature, which is our message, which is our copyright, which is the most precious thing we have is our message. Our message. So we're on our way to Moscow one morning. We take this bullet train, and Olga mentions, yeah, this lady is going to meet us, and she's mad. You're going to recognize her. She's kind of big, and she's got real short hair, and she's going to be real mad. I'm like, oh, that's great. So we get to the train station. This is in Moscow. There are a bazillion people there. I recognized her right away. She's very large, very angry, and we get in her car, and we're going to take a ride from the train station to the General Service Office in Moscow. And she speaks a little English. I ask her, how long's the ride? She says, it's either going to be 15 minutes or 3 hours. What's it to you? I'm like, ooh. And it was real obvious this lady just immediately didn't like me, hated me for whatever reason. And I'm thinking, I think she's going to kill me and stick me in a trunk or eat me or something. I didn't know what was going to happen. But on the way there, she's driving in traffic and turns around and she asks in Russian, and Olga's translating it, but it's very angry Russian. Olga says, she wants to know why you don't get rid of the story about the Eskimo in a big book. I'm like, okay, I'm just quickly trying to compute. Valerie, who's the publication director, handles all the publication of the big book and everything else. Valerie, what's she talking about? I don't know. I'm like, what are you're supposed to know? So we're both sitting there kind of thinking, oh my God, I better have an answer to this. So she keeps asking about it, and we say we're going to talk about it. We get to the General Service Office. We're fixing to have the meeting we're there for. They're very polite. The General Service Office is small. It's very austere. It's not a ritzy place, okay? It's about what you would think in a former communist nation. But they pull out some juices, some cookies, some breads, very loving group of people. And then she sits down and says, before we get started, I need to know about the Eskimo I'm offended by. And this is being translated to me. It's very offensive what you say about Eskimos in the U.S. Big Book. Why is that in there? And I realized it's a comment that Bill makes. You'll be better than I am to quote it exactly. It's around page 89, 90, 91, somewhere in that range. And the comment is just kind of off the cuff, and then the Eskimo came in with a bottle of whiskey. And it's in Bill's original, it's in the first edition of the Big Book, and it makes it through to the fourth edition. And when I realized where it was, she said, she's getting madder and madder. Who is going to answer that question? And I look and I say, well, Valerie, you should. And Valerie says, I'm just the director of publications. Don's on our General Service Board, so effectively he is my superior. He will answer, you know? And I'm like, okay. So I begin to explain to her, it's like, let me tell you, I'm offended by this too because I have a close friend who is an Eskimo from Fairbanks named Ben O, who I met on a trip that I did to Chukotka, Siberia. And I told her a little bit about Ben O, and I said, Bill Wilson and Alcoholics Anonymous were leaders. We were way ahead of our time in terms of of treating people as equals, with unity. And I went, he did not mean this in an offensive way, but we don't change the language that was written in our book because it has historical significance. It's my responsibility as a sponsor to point out that and a lot of other language in our literature that was written in the 30s, 40s, 50s wasn't meant to be offensive, but today people may interpret it differently than it was meant. And I pointed out some other examples. And then I went into, I took this trip to Chukotka, and I met some Eskimo people, and I told her the story about Ben O being able to communicate. And she started crying and got up and walked out, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if this is good or bad. I don't know if it's good or bad. And she came back in full Eskimo attire. And she was just bawling at this point and told me, you met Valeri. You met Valeri, who brought the meeting back to his village on the Arctic Ocean. And she went on to say, I am an Eskimo. I'm from a different part of Siberia, but that story is well known to us because people from the United States came in with literature and they brought it to us. And it was the first time, even in Russia, that anybody had done anything with the Eskimo community. And she gave me a little bone carving, and you remember it had AA carved in it. I have it at my house. It's a real tiny, for like a tiny finger. if one of my babies ever has to go to Alcoholics Anonymous because they need it like I do, I got a great ring for them. But the fact is, on the map, and they have a map in their general service office with little pins on the map of Russia everywhere AA is. Russia's huge, I should mention. It is 9 time zones. It's giant. It's a giant place. And there's a pin everywhere where there's a meeting, or a city where there's a meeting. And the pin furthest north anywhere in the world is a pin where the village is, where Valeri walked back and brought that literature. How does that affect your home group? What the hell does that have to do with your home group, you might be asking? What it has to do with you and your home group is this. 3 things. First, Bill Wilson was adamant that we are responsible to carry the message of Alcoholics Anonymous, anyone, anywhere who reaches out for help. I want the hand of AA to be there always, and for that, I'm responsible. It doesn't say anyone in responsibility group in Metairie, Louisiana. It says anyone, anywhere, right? The second thing is, we love to do it. What an unbelievable realization to realize. A guy in Siberia's got the same freaking problem I got. He's got a harder deal he's got to go through to get sober than I got. And it works for him. That's a message, man, that means a lot to me. And the thing that is so remarkable is you, everybody in this room, are invisible people to folks all over the world who've made a tremendous difference in their lives. Because what you have done is enabled the message of Alcoholics Anonymous to get translated into all those languages Doris was talking about. It's not free to do that. When you chunk $1 in the basket or 3 in the basket or whatever, and some of that money gets contributed to the General Service Office, that's where it's going. So when somebody gets a brand new big book in their language for the first time, like in Swahili, they cry. People who are getting that translation for the first time, they cry, they hug you, they are such unbelievable joy when they get it. The person who doesn't have the AA message, who somebody hands them that book, they cry and they hug them because it's a lifesaver for that entire culture and community. The love is for you. You're the invisible people to them because you made it happen. I was the recipient time and time and time and time again, with people hugging me and showing great joy and respect. It was not for Don. It's for you. It's for your home group. I'll tell you another quick little story. I'm running over. James, chunk something at me when I get wherever I shouldn't be, okay? I'm there. But I got to tell you about the Middle East. I went to the Middle East recently for Alcoholics Anonymous. Kuwait. I went there over Thanksgiving. Did you know that there's Alcoholics Anonymous in the Middle East? Has anybody ever been to the Middle East, like Saudi Arabia? You know how when you get off of the airplane, they make an announcement. You are landing in the kingdom of Saudi Arabia, or you're landing in the kingdom of Oman. Alcohol is absolutely illegal. If you leave this plane with alcohol and you are caught with it, and you will be caught, you will be arrested and prosecuted, and there are severe penalties. It's illegal. It's prescribed by virtue of religion in some of these countries. But there are alcoholics there. They tend to be very much under the radar. A lot of them make their own booze, but sure enough, they just like us. It's hard to be an alcoholic in Saudi Arabia, but they exist. And it's damn hard to get sober. But Alcoholics Anonymous, fledgling as it is, exists in these places. In fact, there were 14 countries represented in a gathering of about 100 people in Kuwait City in November last year. And it was so unbelievable to listen to these people's experience, strength, and hope. To meet the lady who's a very wealthy lady from a country who had a few fledgling months of sobriety and got drunk one night. And to watch the ladies gather around her in a culture that's very different than ours and 12-step her was remarkable. They get sober and stay sober just like we do. But one of the most remarkable people I met in AA was a fellow who was a member of a royal family. Now, it's a pretty big group of people, but it's still pretty cool to be a member of a royal family because you get millions of dollars and Ferraris and stuff, right? This guy was about, 5'5", very slight, not a big guy, very meek, had a certain just magical look in his eye when he looked at you, just a certain soul. You could see the soul of this guy. You could see a joy in him. And he told his story in Kuwait City to a group of us. And to listen to this guy talk about being an alcoholic in a country where it's illegal, to be a member of a royal family that would bring such shame, it would likely result in severe consequences. But also in his story, he related something. I don't take a position on this one way or the other. You know, the guy happens to have a sexual orientation that he's gay. Let me tell you, to be a gay guy in a foreign country and a member of a royal family who's an alcoholic in the Middle East, that's a huge deal. And the courage this man displayed in telling his story was so powerful to me. I sat there and bawled. And you know how he got sober? Doing the same steps we do, doing the same service legacy we do, carrying a message to still suffering alcoholics. Just his conditions are more challenging. I told people earlier today, I've met men and women who live in conditions we cannot begin to imagine, where there are political discords, there are religious impediments, where there are cultural things that are shocking to our conscience. There are people that are alcoholics like us in this room who get sober and stay sober. And the message of recovery, and particularly the translation of our message into their native tongue, comes from you. So you and your home group play a huge role in this. Let me assure you, the love for you in your home group throughout the world is immense. The world of Alcoholics Anonymous is huge. It truly does touch the four corners of the earth. But I'll end with this. That map of Russia is symbolic of the map of the AA world. There are all kinds of dots, all kinds of needles and pinheads in the western part of Russia. St. Petersburg, Moscow, bigger cities, the south along the Black Sea. You got a few little sparklings of pinheads on the East Coast. That one little pinhead on the Arctic Ocean. There's a huge, vast expanse of about 6 time zones that's millions of square miles that's empty. There are a lot of places where the message of Alcoholics Anonymous just hadn't gotten there. In Russia, in Western Europe, in South America. I'm going to tell you, it's all over the world. It really is. I've been all over the world, and AA is all over the world. There are places in New Orleans, Louisiana, where AA really hasn't gotten the message in. It's not there. It's not that we're doing anything wrong. We just got plenty of places and plenty of still suffering alcoholics to whom to carry the message. Our work is not done. How do we do it? One day at a time, and we got great tools for it. We got great tools for it. I'm done being a trusted servant. I'm finished. I'm a has-been. I'm an old guy. Hopefully I can either be a bleeding deacon or I can sit back and quietly be like one of the guys who was a giant for me, Charlie Bartel, a past trustee at large from Louisiana who exemplified that type of leadership that an elder statesperson presents. I don't know which one I'm going to be yet. I'm still kind of percolating, and we'll figure it out if I'm going to bleed myself to death or not. But the fact is, the future of AA is in here. And I implore you, I beg of you, I've got 2 little girls, Alex and Christabella. One's 24, one's 3. If either of them need Alcoholics Anonymous because they got a gun to their head, I'm hoping and praying you do the things that people that came before you and me did to keep the doors open. I love you all. Thank you for letting me share.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down. And then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.